Okay, so we continue talking about the 4th century councils. And the Council of Gangra is of 340. Okay, so the Gangra is on the Armenian border. It's in Syria, on the border with Armenia. And this council is, I believe, the only council that can be very easily classified. I mean, canons of which can be very easily classified, because all canons of the Council of Gangra, they deal with various excesses of ascetics, particularly connected with very charismatic man Eustathius, who influenced the sister of St. Basil the Great, Macrina. So, and this man was very charismatic, and now we are dealing that the church structure versus a charismatic man. So, and we are seeing that the church, I mean, the original council, found itself to be in position to actually correct somebody, to so it acts as an authority. Okay, and this council and its canons remain topical. Sort of, Eustathius was teaching that actually every person, that God wants every person to be a monk. Sort of like this is the plan of about every human. And responding to this attitude, we have those councils, those canons, in response to the attitudes that were espoused by those zealots. Okay. Right. So, Brat Ivan, do you have canons available to read?
Which one?
The first one, the very first one. Can you read the first three?
No, I was saying which Ivan?
We only have you right now.
Окей. Какой канон еще раз? У меня только по-русски есть.
Первый, wow. Okay, then, Brother Seraphim, please start reading canons of the Council of Gangra. Can you hear me, Brother Seraphim? Yes?
Может быть, он еще не вернулся.
Ага. Хорошо.
Давайте, раз я тут пока один по-русски, я тогда по-русски прочитаю.
Хорошо, сейчас я просто остановлю тогда. Сейчас момент. Right, we are talking about the Council of Gangra that took place on the border between Syria and Armenia. And I'm grateful to Brat Ivan Griznov for correcting me that it was actually Granada, not Cordoba. So the Council of Elvira where took place. And can you read Canon 2, Brother Seraphim?
And that's the Synod of Gangra, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, Canon 2.
It was in response to a charismatic leader, Eustathius, who was very popular and who believed that actually God wants every man to be a monk. Right, so something you can come across nowadays, and this is what original bishops decided. And again, bishops were not monastics, right? Sort of, it's the church wasn't monastic at this time. Monastic was an independent movement, sort of spontaneous movement. So can you go ahead, please?
Okay. If anyone shall condemn him who eats flesh, which is without blood, and has not been offered to idols, nor strangled, and is faithful and devout, as though the man were without hope of salvation because of his eating, let him be anathema. Interesting.
I mean, I'm glad to see that it's one of those cases when no sort of esoteric wisdom is required. It's very on the surface, very straightforward. I don't think it's necessary to contextualize in a sense, because it's just, I think that's very clear. Okay, so Brat Ivan Griznov, do you have the English text available? Yes, you
Council,
do. Yes.
Council of
Gangra.
Gangra.
Okay.
No, not right now. I'm searching for it.
Okay. Then, Brother Seraphim, can you read 3 and 4, please?
I found it, Joe.
Okay. No, Brother Seraphim, can you do it, please?
Okay. If any shall teach a slave under pretext of piety to despise his master or to run away from his service, and not to serve his own master with goodwill and honor, let him be anathema. And then number 4 is, if anyone shall maintain concerning a married presbyter that is not lawful to partake of the oblation when he offers it, let him be anathema.
Well, you see, kind of number 3, it's interesting because Eustathius and his group, they were against slavery. They were very much anti-slavery. And sort of the fathers of this council, they didn't really challenge the existed order. They didn't challenge, right? Sort of following St. Paul's attitude, right? And number 4 regarding presbyter is very much it's very much within the lines of Donatist mindset, right? Because Donatists, they connected validity of sacraments with personal conditions of a celebrant, and the church rejected this approach. So mentioning that yes, those people can be sinners, but nevertheless sacraments, they were true and pure. Okay. So canon number 5, if anyone shall teach that the house of God and the assemblies held therein are to be despised, let him be anathema. Again, you read those canons and you try to construct the reality. You try to think. You don't really look at them as isolated pieces of legislation, sort of, kind of, without thinking, well, they decided. No, you kind of see what was going on outside of the council. That basically those ascetic people, kind of like Taliban style, they sort of considered lay congregation as it's kind of esoteric, I guess. Sort of, they were the chosen ones. They had special knowledge, and then people, regular people, especially in this time when parishes, congregations started to be filled with newly converted, started to be filled with people who just want to join because this is new trend, right? People who didn't really, who just was there for the sake of conformity, right? Sort of, you see that this approach here, that basically they are of lower dignity, they are kind of profane, they are not really the chosen ones, sort of. Okay. And in response of their gathering, in response to their assemblies, bishops point out that they should not have their own assemblies without blessing from the church through the bishop. Okay. Okay, so also the question of money in Canon 8, if anyone except the bishop or the person appointed for the stewardship of benefactions shall either give or receive the revenue, let both the giver and the receiver be anathema. So again, sort of money should go through the church. Brat Ivan Grisnov, can you do number 9?
Да, конечно. Сейчас, number 9. If anyone shall remain virgin or observe continence, abstaining from marriage because he adores it, and not on account of the beauty and holiness of virginity itself, let him be anathema.
Right. Again, sort of, it's all about attitude. So, and the next one continues, takes on, sort of elaborates on the same topic.
Do you want me to read it?
No. Okay, so and now number 11 deals with this again. We're dealing with strict ascetic attitudes, but I think a problem with this, there's those very strict ascetic attitudes. They were directed toward lay people. So if somebody for Christ wanted to withdraw from the war and doesn't want to participate in festivities, and it's understandable, that's respectful, but at the same time, why do you go to towns and start chasing people who do this? It kind of also reminds a little bit of Archpriest Habakkuk. That sort of, he was very, very zealous about chastising people and people morals and so on. Okay. Right. Okay. Number 13. Yeah. Whoever is there who can read it. Number 13.
I can read it.
Okay.
If any woman under pretense of asceticism shall change her apparel, and instead of a woman's accustomed clothing shall put on that of a man, let her be anathema.
It gives us idea also that, of course, we know in the geographical literature, in the life of the saints, there were women who would hid in men's monasteries. But I mean, it's impossible really to, how to say, it's impossible to extend those cases, individual cases, and make sort of a rule out of them. Like, I mean, what Saint Alexis, a man of God, did. Like, I mean, his bride didn't know his plans, and he left his bride on their marriage bed, and she was confused and so on. I don't think anyone would really give this as an advice. Those are really special cases that should be treated individually. Okay, and same case when women saints who lived in Vance monastery, but generally it was prohibited because that would be a reason why a woman would do it, right? Because she would look like a man in order to live with men, in order to follow a teacher. So it was kind of a little bit sectarian, like there is a leader of a group, right? And somebody wants to be with her teacher, but in order to blend in order to look the same, sort of they would cut their hair. Okay. And number 14, I believe somehow comes close to what Ivan Griznov is researching regarding cases of conversion in the 1990s. And I think there were cases like that when people converted in the post-Soviet Russia in the 1990s. So, Brother Seraphim, can you read number 14 for us, Council of Ganga, please?
If any woman shall forsake her husband and resolve to depart from him because she abhors marriage, let her be anathema.
And number 15, please.
15. If anyone shall forsake his own children and shall not nurture them, nor so far as in him lies, rear them in becoming piety, but shall neglect them under pretense of asceticism, let him be anathema.
Okay, so and then number 16.
16.
Yeah.
If, and under any pretense of piety, any children shall forsake their parents, particularly if the parents are believers, and shall withhold becoming reverence from their parents on the plea that they honor piety more than them, let them be anathema.
Right. So, okay. And number 18, I will read. If anyone under pretense of asceticism shall fast on Sunday, let him be anathema, right? And we are right now, of course, in Great Land, and one may ask, can I have my dairy stuff and stuff like that on Sunday, right? So, and of course, response will be that the fast is laxed basically on Sunday. That was the response. Okay, so I hope it gave you an idea that actually fathers of this council, they also served as distributors of social justice. Not in the sense they would go after man and cut his head off or something like that. That's sometimes how it's understood. No, social justice doesn't understood this way. It's some kind of other justice. No, I mean they were defending those people who could not defend themselves, like children. So that somebody, again, you see kind of a sectarian, like people, they maybe got some kind of psychotic, in the sense that all what was mattered to them just to be with their leader, and kind of God would provide for children, and that's probably what they were told, or they changed their mind about their family lives. They didn't interested in continuing their family life any longer. So, and kind of to regularize the situation, the Council of Ganga came up with those canons, which are still surprisingly topical. So, okay, now a big council, the Council of Antioch. Okay, Antioch, of course, on the same level as Alexandria and Constantinople. It's an ancient see. So we all know the Patriarchate of Antioch, right? And we right. So we also remember that this, as I mentioned, that this council dealt with issue on Saint Athanasius. It actually became a subject of two councils, of Council of Antioch and Council of Serdica. Okay, without mentioning his name. All right. So Canon number 2.
You want me to read canon number 2?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, that's it. All who enter the church of God and hear the Holy Scriptures, but do not communicate with the people in prayers, or who turn away by reason of some disorder from the holy partaking of the Eucharist, are to be cast out of the church, until after they shall have made a confession, and having brought forth the fruits of penance, and made earnest entreaty, they shall have obtained forgiveness. And it is unlawful to communicate with excommunicated persons, or to assemble in private houses and pray with those who do not pray in the church, or to receive in one church those who do not assemble with another church. And if any one of the bishops, presbyters, or deacons, or anyone in the canon should be found communicating with excommunicated persons, let him also be excommunicated, as one who brings confusion on the order of the church.
Right. So you see that it was common to assemble and sort of right now it's kind of understandable that you need to have a bishop's blessing to set up a new community, a new prayer house or whatever. So in order to be connected. But back then it was not that clear, and you see formation of this mindset that is very natural for us right now to see that you need to have a blessing from your bishop. But in the 4th century, that's exactly what the fathers of this council fought for, that there will be the bishop-centric principle would remain employed, would remain used by the church. Okay, so in canon number 5 reinforces this thought. Okay. So if any presbyter or deacon, despising his own bishop, has separated himself from the church and gathered a private assembly and set up an altar, and if when summoned by his bishop he shall refuse to be persuaded and will not obey, even though he summoned him a first and a second time, let such an one be wholly deposed and have no further remedy, neither be capable of regaining his rank. And if he persist in troubling and disturbing the church, let him be corrected as a seditious person by the civil power. So you see, there's interesting, there's civil power now already crops in. Okay, so and it's really interesting case when church refers to her relationship with the state. Okay, and gives you idea also about what the Orthodox Christian state was, that it was one entity, it was one reality. Отец Александр, слушай, я преподаю, да, ты... Да, хорошо, до свидания. Окей. Right. So you see, basically, it's kind of, I wish they wouldn't say it here, but I mean, it's a document, so what to say? Because it's already a clear case that a presbyter is disobeying, right? A presbyter doesn't want to talk to his bishop. And silence is always, I think, counterproductive, because silence cannot be interpreted. Silence cannot be interpreted. So whenever we deal with complicated situations, I mean, we as prospective priests, or you as prospective priest, better to say. So I think it's sensible to make a bishop co-responsible. What do I mean by this? That when bishop knows what you do in a parish, that he knows exactly what's going on, then if somebody would suddenly came up with complaint against you, he can respond, wow, I know what's going on, and actually the situation is different. Whereas when bishop doesn't really know what's going on in this parish, the situation can be worse. But we see here that it's already case of a schism. It's a case of a schism, right? When presbyter or even deacon, right, started to have a rival assembly. Okay, and so in this case, actually, it's still civil authorities are involved. So maybe it's not a problem. It's not like, I mean, sort of prosecuting schismatic for the sake of different beliefs, but it's also nowadays I said civil authorities involved because it's when property is involved. And this is an issue, for instance, between us and our former brothers who didn't recognize our reconciliation with the Church of Russia in 2007. For instance, the church in Santiago de Chile was taken over by our congregation, right? And there are other cases like that. So civil authorities involved when there is disputes regarding properties, right? So what is also important, Canon number 6, right? Okay, who, Brat Ivan Gryznov, can you read number 6, please?
Хорошо. Так. If anyone has been excommunicated by his own bishop, let him not be received by others until he has either been restored by his own bishop, or until, when a synod is held, he shall have appeared and made his defense, and having convinced the bishop, shall have received a different sentence. And let this decree apply to the laity and to presbyters and deacons and all who are enrolled in the clergy list.
Right, I have and having convinced the synod, so in my text, so but it's again some basic rules or axioms maybe of church discipline, church order, that if person is excommunicated and comes to your parish, and he is privately excommunicated, because no priest is allowed publicly excommunicate anyone, right? It's out of above a priest's pay level, so you cannot anathematize publicly anyone without having blessing of his bishop. But I mean, privately, person can be excommunicated, right? Sort of as a result of this person's sins. But in this case, when this person comes to another confessor, this confessor is not in position to admit this person to communion. But there are cases of different practices. For instance, there were cases when our people from our church, Russian church abroad, would travel to Father Ephraim's monasteries, where literal practice of applying epithemia, applying penance is exercised, or was exercised. I don't know what's the case now. So then they would come because they didn't they were baptized, right, in their childhood, but they were never catechized. They didn't live Christian lives, but they were treated as they were responsible Christians, as Christians who really knew what was good and what was bad. And with this information, they committed with this knowledge, they committed voluntarily, they sinned voluntarily. So, and then those penance would be removed by bishops. So if somebody really abusing his authority as a confessor, and very unreasonably practices those excommunications, then bishops can interfere with this, and they can suspend this penalty. Okay. Right, so Brother Seraphim read us number 10. Okay, so who would like to read number 11?
I can do that.
Okay, please.
If any bishop or presbyter or any one whatever of the canon shall presume to betake himself to the emperor without the consent and letters of the bishop of the province, and particularly of the bishop of the metropolis, such a one should be publicly deposed and cast out, not only from communion, but also from the rank which he happens to have, inasmuch as he dares to trouble the ears of the emperor beloved of God, contrary to the law of the church. But if necessary, business shall require anyone to go to the emperor, let him do it with the advice and consent of the metropolitan and other bishops in that province, and let him undertake his journey with letters from him.
Okay, so basically, it's all about how to say, it's all about sort of common sense, I guess. So if you have somebody who is is the closest to you in the rank, you address this person. You don't go over this person's head, because it's disrespectful, and no one will be. I mean, this person is not going to be happy. Plus, also, you are in this case getting somebody like emperor involved, and luckily, a person in a high position would just refer you back, would just say, you know, you really need go back to orders and start with whoever is the first person in command. So that, because otherwise this person can make mess, since he's on top, on the very top of this pyramid, it not necessarily knows all details, right? Sort of on ground levels. So it can be, therefore, I mean, people of like upper management, they luckily, I think, understand this and would just refer you back to the beginning of this chain of command. So, okay. Right. Who can read number 20?
Я могу.
Да, брат Иван, пожалуйста.
Хорошо. With a view to the good of the church and the settlement of disputes, it is decreed to be well that synods of the bishops, of which the metropolitan shall give notice to the provincials, should be held in every province twice a year, one after the third week of the feast of Easter, so that the synod may be ended in the fourth week of the Pentecost, and the second on the Ides of October, which is the 10th or 15th day of the month Hyperberetus, so that presbyters and deacons and all who think themselves unjustly dealt with may resort to these synods and obtain the judgment of the synod. But it shall be unlawful for any to hold synods by themselves without those who are entrusted with the metropolitan sees.
Right. You see, basically, we are seeing tightening up the whole structures, right? Sort of like charismatic man who just basically under God himself, who really not under any man, they put out of law. Then also metropolitans should be recognized, not just, you know, bishops of the region, right? Sort of like, I mean, if Bishop Nikolai and Bishop Luke, they would decide to have their council, sort of understandably, they would get their vicar bishops, they would get permission from their metropolitan, or I mean their assembly, whatever. So, and that basically what this council defends, I mean this canon defends, right? And also it says that right, no, right, okay. Now I would like to read number 19, okay, to us, because they go as a unit, as a single unit, and 19 is important. A bishop shall not be ordained without a synod and the presence of the metropolitan of the province. And when he is present, it is by all means better that all his brethren in the ministry of the province should assemble together with him, and thus the metropolitan ought to invite by letter. And it were better that all should meet, but if this be difficult, it is indispensable that a majority should either be present or take part by letter in the election, and that thus the appointment should be made in the presence or with the consent of the majority. But if it should be done contrary to this decrees, the ordination shall be of no force. And if the appointment shall be made according to the prescribed canon, and any should object through natural law of contradiction, the decision of majority shall prevail. So you see, kind of it gives you idea that there is voting. Voting is fine. Another thing is that all Orthodox bishops should participate in consecration of their new colleague, of their new peer. So kind of ideally, if it happens in this area, all bishops with whom we are in communion should come over and participate. So kind of demonstrating unity of the church, demonstrating also that it's not going to be a time sort of, it's not going to prolong divisions. It's not some kind of event that would make other bishops unhappy, right? Sort of, that's what would mean conciliar event. But also we are found here a minimal norm, right? That no, there is no mention of 2 or 3 here actually, but I mean it should be a minimum should be 3 bishops, right? So 1 bishop cannot make another bishop. Okay. Right, and Canon 21 is something that it's an example when only bishop is mentioned, but at the same time it can be substituted to a priest. Okay, so Canon 21, anyone? I can
Canon
read.
21?
Yeah, can you
I can
read?
do that.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, 21. A bishop may not be translated from one parish to another, either intruding himself on his own suggestion or under compulsion by the people, or by constraint of the bishops, but he shall remain in the church to which he was allotted by God from the beginning, and shall not be translated from it, according to the decree formerly passed on the subject.
Right. Right, so it kind of reinforces an ideal of marriage between congregation and a priest or a bishop. And we have examples, like, I mean, Father Gregory Naumenko, he is a striking example. He has been a priest in his parish, I would say almost like close to 40 years, I would say. He has been in Rochester. But again, it's widely practiced basically that priests, they change assignments because they have families often, and it's just unrealistic sometimes in a small parish if you have a growing family and so on. So you might look for a bigger, larger parish, and that's again reality between canons and sort of real life. So, but I mean, one of course may respond that, listen, literally there is no mention of priests. Okay, that's one way to look at this. So, but I mean, bishops also, of course, are transferred, because we don't have many bishops, and some of them die, and vacancies need to be filled, and so on. So, for the sake of the church order, is done. Okay. So it's important that in the canons of the Council of Antioch, we see that regular meetings of councils are over and over emphasized. Okay, so it's sort of something that we see also in our church, that I believe twice in a year, I mean, once in 2 years, bishops meet for their council. Okay. So in Canon 23 prohibits for a bishop to appoint a successor, because it doesn't belong to bishop. It belongs to Christ. It belongs to Christ and his church. So bishop cannot make church his own sort of territory. In a sense, he is in charge. He's a guardian, a custodian. He's an arch shepherd. He's a leader, but he doesn't own the church. He doesn't own the church, right? So therefore, he cannot appoint somebody as a monarch would do. He cannot have dynasty. There were cases close to dynasty in Chernogoria, in Montenegro, when they would appoint one of the children to be metropolitan. So basically, so there would be one metropolitan, another would be a warlord, and so on. But it's kind of little bit irregular situation. So okay, right, again there are questions they deal with church property, which is also very important, that you always very clear what belongs to you personally and what belongs to the parish. I remember in London I saw how a priest was explaining to, I don't remember exactly to whom, but somebody else he was explaining and saying, listen, this chalice is my personal chalice that I brought here to the sanctuary. So, and therefore, and then this priest later on, he left this parish. And I'm sure in this case, no questions were asked, because God forbid things wouldn't go smoothly. Somebody has to leave, take his stuff, and so on. And then, I mean, not necessarily you would be able to get your own things, because I mean it's an expensive chalice, and you really would need to wait until somebody would give you clearance to take it. So, and the same, of course, with everything else. So, what is your other vestments, your personal vestments, or those vestments were bought by a parish for you to use in this parish? You're not really in authority to take them with you. So those things, they really have to be very clear, because money is the most maybe explosive thing that can compromise a person forever. So if somebody would be stained that this person is very casual, and sometimes there are also types of charismatic types, like the person is very generous with his own money. So he doesn't know, like he was given an envelope, and then somebody would, and I have somebody in mind, and then somebody would approach him, and he would just give this envelope to this person without even knowing what was given to him, and maybe there were like $500 or whatever. So, but at the same time, this person would also be would in the same use the church money in the same way, and that is a problem. That is a problem, because I mean, you don't want to have a situation when you have to, explain yourself and how comes that somebody's car payment was made on through the church credit card or debit card, and then you would explain that actually I had a situation and I meant to return it, and I about to return it. It's a bad situation. You really don't want to have anything like that. So in canons, they deal with this, they point out over this. All right, so we are continuing our travels through the 4th century, and right now we are at the Council of Laodicea. Okay, also we remain in the modern day Republic of Turkey. Okay, so we're dealing with those Asian Minor councils. Okay, and this interesting, if you kind of look at the themes, what themes occupied or preoccupied this or that particular council, you see sort of like there are waves, and a wave which is here will be various schismatics. Okay, there will be various schismatics and various church dissidents. Okay, so that will be something that this council was busy with. Okay. Right, and canon number 3 is straightforward. Right, Brother Ivan Griznov, can you read canon number 3 of the Council of Laodicea? It's super laconic.
Yes, give me just a second.
It was a second, Brother Ivan.
Oh yeah, I'm searching for it, and
Who is ready? Who is ready? Anyone else? No.
just a second, maybe here. Number 2. I found it.
Number 3.
Number 3. He who has been recently baptized ought not to be promoted to the sacerdotal order.
Right. Basically, a neophyte cannot be ordained. What is an underlying issue here?
Well, that simply, I think we discussed it earlier.
Yes,
that people are usually not very stable in their faith when they are new converts, and they have this how to say, they have this unbalanced attitude towards the church, so
right.
they can make excessive decisions if they are in order.
Right, and then also unstable. That's, I think, that it boils down to the same word, and exactly right, because a point when we discuss it was apostolic canon, I believe 80, right? When we discuss it, so. And it just shows that this remained a topical issue. That's why they also use it, or perhaps they didn't really use apostolic canons. They kind of adopted it from the scratch. Okay, but I mean it remains an issue, and our seminary adopted this policy that we are not taking in candidates who were less than 1 year Orthodox. Okay, based on this, which is quite generous, but nevertheless, that is also still topical. But at the same time, I can see that there could be cases when a priest doesn't have, when a bishop doesn't have options, right? So then the bishops have to work with material which is available, right? In this case, there, I guess, and I hope there were cases, happy cases, when neophytes were ordained and they remained in their positions and they didn't do any, any crazy stuff. So canon number 6, if whoever would read it, I would like him to give me some exegesis of this canon, to give me some sort of to let's analyze these canons in class. Okay, canon number 6.
I can read it.
Okay.
Ordinations are not to be held in the presence of hearers. Oh no, it's number 5. Okay, canon number 6.
Okay.
It is not permitted to heretics to enter the house of God while they continue in heresy.
Right. Okay, so what would be your explanation of this?
I would say that it's referring to serving in the church, specifically in going to the altar and participating within the
I
service.
like it. I like it. I like it. I mean, I like the way that you creatively approach it. That's what I like. I'm not seeing it on the surface. I'm not seeing it on the surface. But then, if something is strange, right, sort of, then it means search for more answers. And sort of just to assume that by entering house of God, right, what also is behind here, that it's sort of like a problematic entry. Okay.
I can make
Yes.
a point. I would say that because heretics usually heretics mean some Christological dogma. They are heretics are wrong about. So if they participate in the services, even staying in the church and praying, we cannot testify they are praying to the same God, because if they, for example, are Arians or Nestorians, they are praying to different deity. So we cannot have the same prayers together with them.
Right. Let's turn it sort of topsy-turvy. Okay, there is a Protestant church in Jordanville, right? And I will show up there on Sunday in my clerical garb, join their congregation. That's what it means, but from the Orthodox point of view. Because right now, if somebody comes to Jordanville, I mean, it doesn't really make any sense, because there are so many people in church. What I mean, to Jordanville, if somebody comes to the monastery church, whoever this person be, he Muslim or Arian or Scientologist, I mean, it's just big gathering of people. But sort of Protestant church in Jordanville, I think, would be more clearly a contrast for this. And that's how Orthodox churches were. So everyone knew each other, and what they do is they pray together, right? So you see my point, do you?
Yes.
Yes.
Because right now, I mean, somebody can just lurk at the back and whatever sits there, or I mean, but essentially what happens there in church, I mean, there here in church, that we all pray by the words of the church. And essentially, it's the same thing as was back then, or maybe to some extent what happened in the smaller communities, that everyone is focused and everyone knows that what Brat Ivan Nalitov think, Brat Ivan Griznov think, they think on behalf of all of us. That's why they call league. They are our face of the whole congregation. And we could do the same, those of us who sing, the whole church can sing. That's what congregational singing, right? And we respond to the words that are offered by the church through the deacon and priest, right? That's what happens. That's how we pray congregationally. But this understanding is not common. So right now, in reality, we are having like in theater. There is people observers, there is choir, and there are performers beyond the altar wall. Whereas in fact, in one homogeneous reality, right? So kind of, if you and back then you don't need to explain it. That's why, but another canon says, if you come to church and don't and don't commune, then it's wrong. So you come and you commune. It's like going to a banquet. So going like Vladika Luke serves a dinner for seminarians, and you come and say, "I'm sorry, Vladika, I'm full. I mean, I just sit, I just enjoy the atmosphere." Well, I mean, that's what we do, right? That's what we do. Sort of regarding literature was designed that people would commune, and if you don't commune, that means you are excommunicated, or you have something against the priest, or maybe you strongly believe this priest is not orthodox in his beliefs. So other than that, you just commune. Okay. So let's go. Let's read more. Who would like to do number 21?
I can't seem to find the canons.
What is this, Brother Seraphim?
I'm sorry. I can't seem to find the canons. Which council again?
Laodicea, the Council of Laodicea.
Laodicea, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if I can find.
Okay, so I can do 21.
Oh, I found it.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it 21?
Yes.
Subdeacons have no right to place in the diaconicum, nor to touch the Lord's vessels.
Okay, so that basically what distinguish ordained subdeacons from non-ordained subdeacons. That's why subdeacons cannot get married. Now there are two schools of thoughts, as with many other things. So it's unthinkable that a seminarian would do deacon's job, sort of like go out and read litany. I know that cases like that happen, but they are very irregular. So, but at the same time, seminarians are totally fine to do subdeacon's job without being ordained. So that means that the different and still get married, right? So basically it gives grounds for some of the bishops, like Archbishop Peter Lugier, whose commentaries we read, that basically if subdeacon never touch holy altar and never touch holy vessels, then he could be married, right? Then he could be married. But again, it's sort of there is no consensus. I think consensus would be that subdeacon is not married. I mean, if he is married, he would lose his dignity as subdeacon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So right, but at the same time, you see, it's subdeacons are prohibited specifically to touch the holy vessels, right? Whereas, I mean, in our practice, they would say that holy vessels with holy gifts, right, with holy elements, with where transformed bread and transformed wine. I mean, holy body and blood of the Lord. So, but to carry around, you kind of see what looking at Vanya Drobot, right? So you kind of see what he does and so on. That gives you idea what is here. And I'm sure that Brat Ivan Nalita will like the next one, number 22.
Хотите, чтобы я прочитал?
Да. Okay. The subdeacon has no right to wear an horarium, nor to leave the doors. Okay. So again, we see our reality is that subdeacons do wear horariums, and even those who are so we have decorated readers. I mean, which why not? I mean, you need readers also have to get something. Okay, but I mean, the Canon 23 is also specific that readers and singers have no right to wear an horarium and to ring or sing thus. I mean, to ring is to read or sing with horarium. Okay. But back to what we discussed regarding heretics, it also meant how they enter. That is important. It's not just what I meant that search for more answers. It cannot be just a mechanical act. Like, I mean, Canon 24 of the same Council of Laodicea says no clergyman should enter a tavern. Okay, but again, it means enter to tavern in order to enjoy it and so on. And also, you really a keyword, what was tavern exactly? Because you cannot just use the English translation blindly, right? You really need to see what exactly is behind. You really need to look commentaries on this. You cannot just basically blindly transpond it. And then also, if a person can give an account about this, for what was his purpose? What was his purpose, right? Then it justifies this if it's done for in good conscience, right? Or if it's done for a sinful act. So it all takes into account. And here it means basically, if canons prohibit something, it means it's because of some kind of sin. Okay. And a number of canons here, starting, you see, there are mixed canons. There are canons that deal with issues of church discipline regarding clergy. And there is also change of practices. Like if you read Canon 28, it says, it is not permitted to hold love feasts, like agape, as they are called in the Lord's houses or churches, nor to eat and to spread couches in the house of God. So you see, kind of things are tightening up from more sort of lax ancient church practice. So now we are getting into more liturgical mindset, sort of toward what we have nowadays. Okay. And number 30, none of the priesthood, nor clerics or low rank, nor ascetics, nor any Christian or layman shall wash in a bath with woman, for this is the greatest reproach among the heathen. Okay, so kind of bishops look after morals, right, of Christians here, especially clergy. And number 33, since number 33 provides context for this earlier canon about heretics entering into the church, right? It says, it is unlawful to receive the eulogies of heretics, for they are rather allogia than eulogia. I mean, play of the word, sort of here. So and it's also sets a barrier between Orthodox and heretics, since earlier during Gnostics' time in the 3rd century, it was not that clear how to distinguish. That's why Saint Irenaeus of Lyon came up with a list of consecrations that Orthodox consecrations can be traced down to apostles, sort of all those impositions of hands can be traced down. So in order to distinguish them from Gnostics, and now there is more, basically more fences put up to separate, to segregate from non-Orthodox. So no one shall join in prayers with heretics or schismatics, right? And also, it doesn't mean on any occasion. So let's say there is occasion when somebody invited a person from the monastery to talk about Orthodoxy, right? Sort of like Episcopalian parish. I know one case like in Cooperstown. So invited a clergyman from the monastery. And so, and it will be a little bit twisted to say that if they prayed before this event, right? He prayed that God would enlighten him, illuminate him, and they pray whatever they pray for, but it doesn't. I don't think this will be fair to apply this canon for this occasion. Again, canons prevent the faithful from being scandalized. So we should not scandalize with our lives, I mean, with our behavior, people. And that's part of this. So if you go and participate in this sort of ecumenical event, when you come and pray together and so on, that's something that can come close to this canon, I think. Right. But again, if you come to discuss the faith the best as he can, as you can, I don't think that really would contradict the purpose of canons. Okay. So there is more, and the Christians in cities like Alexandria, they lived in mixed communities. And also this canon sets up, again, more boundaries, like it is not lawful to receive portions sent from the feast of Jews or heretics, nor to feast together with them. It is not lawful to receive unleavened bread from the Jews, nor to be partakers of their impiety. Okay. So wow. Okay, so